if you can't guess already, my video is influenced by the book called Sapiens by Noah Harari. If you've not read the book, you should definitely give it a try. It does change your perspective, and I would suggest not to read the summary because it is in itself a summary of the humankind. You should go through the entire book because it takes you on a journey and you change as a human being throughout the journey. Now that we have that out of the way, I would like to start with why do I say that evolution did not prepare us for the corporate ladder. So what did evolution prepare us for? Evolution prepared us for living, right? Basic scientific argument that what we actually care about is passing on our genes to the future generations. That's all we care about, reproduction and survival. Once the survival is done, then all we care about is reproduction. Then the people will come in, the people who like to give psychological and philosophical arguments, saying stuff like, but we do care about something more than that. And now people don't even care about reproduction anymore. They just care about survival. And when people are suicidal, they don't even care about survival anymore. So where did the problem actually arise? Why do people start thinking that they are different from their biological aspects, their biological genetic codes, what their DNA is supposed to do, The problem comes from our own imaginative minds. The reason that sapiens were able to survive these millions of years where there's mass extinction of so many species, different Homo species like Homo erectus, Homo neanderthals, they all got extinct. They all are extinct, but Homo sapiens still continue to survive. Not just survive, but be at the top of the food chain. Where do you think, not the problem, but what do you think is the biggest reason? Noah Harari suggests that the biggest reason is our imaginative minds and the fact that we can cluster up and gossip. Pretty surprising, but he did say that. He said that we could cluster up and gossip. We can make big groups and we can share common myths, and because of that we were able to collect a lot of people together and fight a common enemy, which made it possible for sapiens to survive this millennia. And we are here now. Wow. When we don't have to cluster up to fight any particular common enemy because we are all Homo sapiens. At that time the fight was of survival, of thriving of a particular species, but we are Homo sapiens. No matter how much you like calling different races a different species, they are still Homo sapiens. So now the fight stopped being about which species is superior and started being about which company is best, which paycheck is best, which manager is a loser, and which manager can we butter up to get in the good books. But that has been a reason why we are so miserable, why the society suffers. So, but why do we suffer in corporate ladder and corporate hierarchies? Noah Harari has proposed this idea that I don't know if it's idea or if it's massively accepted, but I would like to call it idea because this was the first time I heard of it, and it's pretty convincing. He said that the imaginative mind is the reason that humans are able to form societies, form a particular religion, form cities, countries, and die for their country because they share a common myth, a common goal, which they think they want to protect, right? This is all the sense of imaginative mind. Now, when we talk about the country, it's easily there, you're living in the land and all that. Then when you talk about a company, in company there's a manager and there's manager's manager and there's a particular hierarchy and all you care about is climbing the corporate ladder. But this thing is not embedded in our DNA. This is not programmed in us, like a bee society or an ant society. They are programmed to follow the queen bee or the queen ant, but we are not. So there's a lot of fight between employees not succumbing to their manager's regime, and they're just acting on their own, being an independent, being the sigma wolf. Why do you think that is? Because conformity is not embedded in our DNA code. What is embedded in our DNA code is imagination, and being able to form groups. And even if the groups did choose a particular leader, it would be for their own advancement, not that they could be ruled, but because they wanted advancement, right? That's why corporate structure is so exhausting. Succumbing to a particular management style is so exhausting because Groups and societies are made for humans to thrive, not the other way around. That's why it's so difficult to make sense of it, to fall in that pattern naturally. People think, I'm not built for companies, I'm not built for this corporate life. Yeah, no shit, no one is built for this corporate life, and everyone learns. And because of different personalities, some people just find it very easy to be able to do that, and for some people, it's very difficult. In the forager society, when there used to be small groups of people, because there was no big reason why they should form big groups and fight a common enemy, like when there's this theory of mass extinction, of mass genocide of Homo neanderthals. So when there's a mass genocide of Homo neanderthals, sapiens would require very big groups to come together and then go for that genocide, right? Because Neanderthals were supposedly very powerful and they could not be easily taken down by one sapien. So that's why they needed big groups. But up until then, up until they needed those big groups, they were like little groups, little societies, and they used to be usually wanderers. They used to settle at one place, do their hunting and gathering, used to eat, move if the resources were depleted, and then they used to move. And that is how we used to survive. That's such a chill lifestyle. Like, it is believed that those were the most affluent society. Everything was everyone's. Land was not occupied, there was no private property. They could roam anywhere, they could eat anything the nature wanted to give them. That's supposed to be the most affluent society till date. Though true, humans have a lot more control over nature than they ever did before, but no one can particularly say that is the best thing that has happened to the world. Then that means that everything after that was just imaginative order. Because human didn't have the particular hierarchy of following a corporate ladder or following a corporate hierarchy, then that means that everything was just a product of humans' imaginative mind, where human was like, there should be a company where no one would be personally liable for anything that happened, and then that company would create products that would be sold to people, and they, to be able to afford those products, they would have to work in that same company to be able to earn the money to afford those goods. And that's how this loop goes. And before, you didn't even have to earn to eat food, right? I mean, you were wandering people. Didn't even need good clothes because you'd probably not see that person anymore. You didn't care about it, right? So everything that we suffer for now is all the product of humans' own creation. And don't go about saying, oh, God created society, God created countries. Did God create countries? I think that's a very invalid argument. We can go into the reason why we decided to settle down and all that, but that's not relevant for this video. So we'll just move on to the conclusion that things were way better when we were just wanderers, hunters and gatherers, and we didn't care about settling down and creating countries or waging wars, because all we cared about was just our own survival, and that's it. But then things shifted. History took its course, and here we are today, where we have to earn what we eat, earn what we wear. We have to work crazy amount of hours just to be able to afford basic necessities. And in people who are working in small companies who have very little salary packages, they barely survive. And they're still doing it. It creates a lot of anger. While reading this book, it will create a lot of anger if you are the bottom feeders, not in the bad sense, but in the sense that you're working very hard to earn the most minimum wage, and then you come home and you think people are thriving up there, they are thriving, and you are here. It makes you angry, it makes you feel helpless, it makes you feel like nature was not supposed to do this, God didn't intend it to be like this. But now what? It will happen. I mean, it happened to me. I don't know if it happened to you, but that's why I wanted to read this book. Now that you know all this, now that you've gone through the anger, through the helplessness, then comes the phase of acceptance that, okay, the bad things happened, but now what? So then we get into acceptance that it did happen. You didn't have any control over the history, control over the people who did what they did. Like, the time when Britishers were exploiting people all around the globe, and now the Britishers are very apologetic about it. The Britishers now. But no matter how apologetic they are now, they can't change what has happened before. But that doesn't mean that people will stop living. Even what has happened in history is not acceptable or something that we're angry about. The truth is that we have to live on. Because even though things have changed, but the life that wants to live, the humans that want to come into the life, come into the world, are still there. Your DNAs are still programmed to cluster in a way that a human life is formed. So that thing has not changed. Nature is still taking its course. Even though the imaginative minds have created this society, created this pattern of not being living, not living properly, just constantly working just to earn some money to afford the basic necessities that should be your birthright. If there's a tree and the tree has fruits and you are in the world and you're able to access the fruit, you should be able to eat it. When tree doesn't say no, tree doesn't say, oh, you show me your license, show me your birth, show me your death, show me where you're from, then only I'll give you fruit. Because trees don't care about that, man. Trees are just the most natural part of the world ever. So then the acceptance comes that was history, and no one knows whether the agricultural revolution is the best thing that has happened to the human history, but it has happened. And even though you're angry or you think if you were there you would have done something different, but the thing is that you were not there. I mean, something of you must have been there. Some DNA of yours must have been there, but there's nothing you could have done. There's nothing you could have done to change the course that nature took or we go very harsh on our ancestors for not having things figured out the very first time. Even when parents have their first child, they go all out on that child. Even if they are protective, they'll be overprotective, everything over. But when they have their second child, they tend to go a bit lax on the second child because now they have experience. So the first time when our ancestors were figuring shit out, they made mistakes and it was not great, and mostly not something that we can forgive very easily, but it happened, and it would help a lot if we just move on from it. So the fight should not be about whether to accept it or not, whether to forgive them or not, but the actual fight would be what now, the solution, because that's the practical aspect of it. The emotional aspect is resignation, giving up, angry, but what now? What's the actual fight? Now that you know that what you do is not entirely responsible for your survival, like you can survive, like that's the reason you took birth, because your brain wants to experience life, and then when you know that corporate ladders, corporate structures, the society is all human construct, and humans build it with their own imagination, you tend to take things a little less strictly. Like you're able to understand that this is clay that you can mold and you can just survive. You can stop taking things personally. Like if you don't get promotion, if you don't get things working out in your way, like wealth, fame, success, everything that is possible where you can feel like my life is worthwhile, is all human construct. If you've taken birth, the only way that you'll be successful is that if you'll be able to see the end of it, and if I go beyond that, it will be to be able to pass your genes to the next generation. That's, you have successfully lived your life, really. And then did I get fame, success, did I leave something behind, what's my legacy? It's all human construct. And it doesn't mean that you don't do anything, but it just means that it takes a lot of pressure off you. Like, do I deserve to survive? If you have success, then that probably means that you deserve it. If you don't have success, then am I a loser? Do I not deserve success? Do I not deserve? That just means that's what your life is right now, And if you want to change it, play the game. The real fight is that you have to play the game. As Krishna rightfully said, that pick up your weapons and fight. If you know that the reality, the meta version of it is this, and then the layer above that is that this is all construct, societal construct, then you have to do your part, right? You're here to play this game, then you have to play the game really well. You can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You can't do that. You have to go all in. If you really want to fight, if you really want to be in the corporate structure, corporate hierarchy, you want to climb the corporate ladder, then you have to go all in. And even if it's exhausting, do it. खत्म करो यार, कर दो. Yes, you can't do that कि मैंने like एक महीने बहुत मेहनत कर ली and then now I want success and I'm not getting success now. I'm like, why am I even doing anything? Because yeah, there is nothing necessity. It's not necessity for you to do it. You will still survive if you have money. So society is built like that already, and you can go back and curse at what has happened, but the reality is it isn't here now, and this has all happened. And now the truth is, you need money to survive. And to have money, you should work. And to have work, you will have to work in soul-sucking companies. I mean, it doesn't have to be soul-sucking. You can get good companies if your resources allow it. But if they don't, then you have to work in soul-sucking companies, and you should be with gratitude that you're able to work in a company, you're able to afford food. And I know it might sound insensitive, but you should understand the bigger picture of why I am saying it, because you can fight the constructs, but when they are there, when money is very prevalent, and since there, man, it's just there. You can't run away from something that's just there, You can't be like, oh, money is the basic necessity, money is the only way I'll survive. Fuck money, man, fuck money. Then that's okay, but then that just means that that's gonna be a different struggle of yours. People do that. People reject money, they go live a recluse life. You can do that if you want to. But if you don't want to, then you want things from the society, you want to use the resources, then you have to have money. So I'm not being insensitive, I'm just being practical here. That you have to do it. Stop hating money. You have to do it. Stop hating the fact that society is built like this, built on money, because it has happened. If you are in the position of power, maybe you can change something, but if you're not, then you have to play the game by the rules that have already been set. So that's all I had to say about this.